Welcome to EduPodcast, your daily dose of relevant and timely educational topics and discussions. It's good to be back here, ma'ams and sirs, and I hope that you are doing fine right now. Don't forget to grab a coffee and take quick breaks from time to time. I am Dr. Alec Koff from the Southeast 1st District.
Dr. Aisah Bonsalagan is supervisor from Southwest 1st District.
Dr. Reji Sunot, a supervisor from East 2nd District.
And I am Dr. Xyza Balatayo from West 2nd District.
And I'm Dr. Jerah Memper from Northwest 1st District.
Dr. Royette Ambulo from Northeast 1st District.
And Dr. Charlene Llagas from South 2nd District.
Together, we will share our insights and suggestions about mother tongue-based multilingual education, or what we call as MTB-MLE. I'm sure there are a lot of school stakeholders out there who are listening to our podcast right now, so let's jump right into this conversation. You see, MTB-MLE has been implemented for years. Do you see any trends or perhaps any issues incorporating MTB-MLE in our educational curriculum? What can you say about this implementation?
I think the trends of mother tongue-based multilingual education have carved its niche as a practical and effective approach in the educational landscape. Results from this implementation indicate benefits of MTB-MLE, namely expressing better ideas, building self-confidence, better retention, and promoting a friendly environment. Native language not only allows students to communicate and connect with one another, but it allows them to understand and appreciate the history of their ancestors and their upbringing. It cultivates an appreciation and understanding that is beyond beneficial for them, especially those from diverse familiar backgrounds. So what's your thoughts about this, Dr. Aisah?
True to that, I also think that MTB-MLE itself is the trend since it is a policy in the Philippines that assists language education in adopting the early exit transition model. This model for implementing bilingual and multilingual pedagogy adheres to the practice that the medium of instruction for the primary years of a child, specifically from kindergarten until grade 3, is their L1 or mother tongue. In the later years, after 3rd grade, the transition to English and Filipino will be introduced as a medium of instruction. But I think despite these trends, I saw some loopholes in this implementation and I actually heard a lot of concerns from my division.
I do agree with Dr. Aisah here. One thing I have also noticed from some of the students is that not all of them speak their native language. Some children have adopted English as their primary language, and implementing the MTB-MLE inside the classroom might be hard for those children, especially if the native language is Visayan. I think the absence of cultural inclusivity in instructional materials is one of the issues that our system has failed to realize when implementing MTB-MLE. What I mean by this cultural inclusivity is that materials must contain a translation of the mother tongue into the language that an instructor used to speak in cases where he or she teaches a school in a rural area whose students belong to an ethnic group with a different dialect. What do you think, Dr. Jerah?
I also would like to add to what Dr. Charlene said. Another issue with the implementation of the MTB-MLE is the lack of personnel who are native speakers of the first language of the learners. So, instead of using the mother tongue as a medium of instruction, the teacher has no choice but to use the language he or she speaks, making the MTB-MLE program ineffective and irrelevant.
I also noticed, Dr. Jerah, there are only a few teachers who actually speak the language. This is the reason why some teachers are assigned to MTB-MLE even if they have little to no idea about it. Also, how can you teach a language that has many varieties? Come to think of it, the Bisaya we use in Cagayan de Oro is different from Cebuano. By examining the MTB-MLE approach, I have observed that the dialect used is generalized. For instance, the dialect or language taught in Visayan-speaking areas is Cebuano, and to think that Cebuano is just one of the varieties of Visayan language. Don't you think so, Dr. Earl?
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And the fact that we have several dialects, we are having difficulty translating or distinguishing words like nawagtang and nawala. Both have similar meaning, but not all Visayan-speaking people can understand those words. They both differ in terms of dialect or the location it came from. We find it hard identifying the Filipino term for the words science and mathematics, let alone comprehending words that are not part of our dialect.
That's true. Personally, I don't know much about my mother tongue, and it has gone so bad that I still keep on asking my grandmother about what a particular word means. But with these concerns that we have mentioned, I think it is fair to say that we can do something about it. I think one of the good things to do is to assign a teacher who actually knows how to speak and teach the dialect. Otherwise, teachers can have mentoring with co-teachers in terms of translating material content or teaching MTB-MLE concepts. But since we also already mentioned the lack of quantity and contextualization of instructional materials, it is best to urge other agencies to, help develop sufficient instructional materials and reference materials such as dictionaries and thesauruses in local language to help teachers learn the dialect's history, vocabulary, dynamics, and rules in terms of grammar and pronunciation. What about you, ma'ams and sirs?
As for me, decentralization is the key. If the medium of instruction used in textbooks and other learning materials is the first language of the learners, we can ensure that the goals of the MTB-MLE program are achieved. We cannot apply Subuhanong Binisaya as the MTB-MLE to schools that have their own languages or dialects. If that happens, education for all is compromised.
Another solution that I think is effective is professional training for teachers. Training on the proper utilization of materials and implementation of MTB-MLE. This, I think, is one of the best solutions to address the teachers' difficulty in the implementation, since teachers have no direct involvement when it comes to constructing and designing instructional materials.
Also, regarding constructing and designing instructional materials, the involvement of a native speaker from different communities would be a great help when it comes to the language in the instructional materials. They can help in terms of nuances and local expressions to avoid misinterpretations and misunderstandings.
I think teachers can also come up with teaching strategies and how they can easily implement and promote MTB-MLE inside the classroom so as to help students with diverse needs. These strategies can be a translation of target language to mother tongue, utilization of multilingual teaching, utilization of lingua franca, improvisation of instructional materials written in the mother tongue, remediation of instruction, and utilization of literary pieces written in the mother tongue as motivation. Teachers must not only adapt to the interplay of the different cultures and languages, but give importance to them too.
Pretty much that is all for our discussion today. That was a mouthful yet a very fruitful one. I think we are running out of time. We would like to thank our audience for listening, and I hope that you have learned something from this podcast. Hope also that together we can work hand in hand to identify educational concerns and subsequently address them to provide our students a better, holistic learning experience. This is EduPodcast, and make sure to tune in for the next episode. Teach to serve the world. Have a good day, everyone. Pag-amping mo kanunay.